Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bitcoin News channel. I'm your host, Rob Wallace, and we got a juicy one today. If 2024 was the year of the Bitcoin ETF, 2025 has been the year of the Bitcoin Treasury. The strategy Michael Saylor pioneered 5 years ago propelled MSTR to become the second best stock of 2024, outpacing names like Palantir, Robinhood, and even NVIDIA with a 358% gain on the year. And thus, the copycats were inevitable. Now, in 2025, more than 175 companies around the world have jumped into the Bitcoin Treasury game. For a moment, it was guaranteed gains. We had Metaplanet soaring to 452%. A tiny UK firm called Smarter Webco exploded 20,000%. But in the end, gravity always wins. Even the king itself, MSTR, has fallen back to where it began 2025. Others, like David Bailey's NAKA, are down over 95%. Retail traders chasing these stocks as Bitcoin plus leverage became exit liquidity for insiders cashing out through pipe deals. And yet, this story is not quite over. This past week, the biggest players gathered in New York City for the Bitcoin Treasury Unconference. Saylor spoke confidently, reminding Wall Street that breaking new ground in capital markets is not for the faint of heart. And I was there, and what I saw was far from despair. It was actually a lot of conviction, a room full of financial pioneers who deeply believe that they're shaping the next big frontier. So what happens next? Nobody can really say. But does it make sense to use the markets to secure as much of the world's scarcest asset as possible before the rest of the world catches on? Absolutely. And while nothing beats stacking your own Bitcoin in cold storage, from what I saw firsthand in New York City, the Bitcoin Treasury trend is far from over. So yes, today I am very grateful to be joined by Dave Birnbaum, VP of Coinbits. Dave, how are you doing today?
Very well. How are you, Rob?
Doing well. Yes. It's a new day, a new Monday. We had a bit of a flash crash last night in Bitcoin going down to 12,000 in the midnight hours. But we're here. 112,000. Sorry. Yes. But we're
don't
here.
Freak people out.
That'd be something, right? That'd be some cheap stats. But yes, it's there's lots of reasons to be confident and bullish, and we're here to break down all of the headlines in our newsletter. Bitcoin News Weekly comes out every Monday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, straight into your inbox. Go to weekly.bitcoinnews.com, subscribe, and you'll get it delivered right to you. And today's title is Amid Market Chaos, Bitcoin Treasury Companies Steal the Spotlight in New York City. Treasury companies store Manhattan this week, projecting bold confidence even as share prices collapse and MNAVs compressed. So we have lots to talk about in terms of these Bitcoin Treasury companies. But before we get into it, Dave, please give us a little bit of background on yourself, Coinbits, and everything that you do in Bitcoin.
Sure. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I love the newsletter. It's a great one. It's a great way to start your Monday and give you everything you need to know for the week. So the conversation, is driven on Twitter, but if you read this newsletter, you're going to know kind of what people are going to be talking about during the week. So I really appreciate you having me on. I help lead Coinbits. It's an exchange that helps people stack sats in a very painless way. So we track your transactions on your credit cards and bank account, round up your transactions to nearest dollar, take your spare change, and invest it for you in Bitcoin. So it's kind of a way of accumulating Bitcoin in a way that doesn't impact your finances and doesn't really have a lot of complexity to it. Been doing that a few years, and it's a wonderful company, and I suggest you check it out at coinbits.app. Since we started with kind of the roundups, we've built out the app into something that is more full-featured for financial management, and we're really excited about that. So we recently released the feature where we take those transactions we're tracking and we characterize them in terms of high time preference spending and low time preference spending, so you can kind of live your life better as a Bitcoiner. So check it out, and I appreciate being here today. We also have I also help lead in Tennessee a state level Bitcoin 501c4 nonprofit that is helping educate lawmakers and policymakers about Bitcoin policy and how to use Bitcoin to expand the economy of the state of Tennessee. And that's kind of relevant to today's topic as well, because we're always trying to find ways of attracting Bitcoin industry, Bitcoin business, finance, and treasury companies are certainly a part of that. And so it is exciting to see that, regardless of sort of the stock price of some of these companies, and I understand that, we're kind of in this cycle that isn't as exciting as a few months ago. It is something that has longevity. And so I'm very excited to kind of bring that story to state level lawmakers here in Tennessee.
Yes, and in Tennessee this week, you guys had a big Bitcoin conference, right? Imagine if.
Yeah, well, that was a fantastic conference, and that was put on by the Bitcoin Park folks and ARK Invest, Kathy Wood's company. And actually, it was more than Bitcoin, which was wonderful to see. I mean, Bitcoin by itself is a revolutionary technology, but where it really starts to change the world is when it is combined, the power of Bitcoin with some of these new emerging technologies, most importantly, AI and energy development in the United States. So we actually had CEOs of nuclear energy companies that are building out capability in the United States to refine nuclear material. Also, we had an announcement that the first fusion reactor may be built in Tennessee, which is pretty exciting. And we also had AI companies who are concerned with making AI useful for people and not violating their privacy and really helping them, live in freedom and liberty, but also use AI to their advantage for productivity and enriching their lives. And so all of those came together, and that it's really great to see, Bitcoin be understood to a level now where we don't just have to explain Bitcoin from the ground up every single time we have a conference. We can use it. We can assume a level of understanding and then build upon that and talk about applications and how we can build a brighter future and a broader economy using it in combination with some of these other technologies.
Yeah, it's amazing where Bitcoin sort of is understood now, and the way that it interplays with other technologies is sort of taking the stage in the conversation, right? Of course, with the energy and the energy grid, AI, possibly agents interacting in Bitcoin. So yes, Bitcoin is going to be fundamental to this technological shift that we are seeing in the 21st century, and we are at the forefront of it. If you're paying attention to Bitcoin, you're paying attention to energy and AI and everything that's changing right before our very eyes. One question I had for you is this weekend, I saw a video of a nuclear silo come down in Tennessee. Are you guys
Mhm.
moving forward with nuclear? Or are you guys taking nuclear away from Tennessee?
Well, so I saw that too. That's kind of a sad thing to see. It was the destruction of a cooling tower. So that in order to take down, I don't know if you're used to play like SimCity 2, but you had to build these like nuclear power plants with these enormous cooling towers the size of, I don't know, city blocks, huge concrete structures. And there's really no way to get rid of something like that without just blowing it up. So there's this video that went around the internet. They had put explosives all around the outside of this cooling tower and took it down. And it was, we got rid of this thing safely. We don't need it anymore. No, that was unfortunate. I mean, it is sad to see, but actually, it's not because we're pulling back on nuclear here. Actually, the lights in my house, the electricity that is that's powering this conversation in my house is coming from nuclear. We're a nuclear state, and what we're doing now is investing in frontier nuclear technologies. So instead of the old model where we have very large projects that take 20 years to come online, and then they're only in service for a few decades, and then they have to be destroyed. We are following a new model, the small modular reactor model here. And then, like I said, also even fusion reactors, which is really insane to think about that we may be very close to the fusion era, which is, for those that aren't familiar, you could call them both nuclear fission and fusion, but they really have very little in common in terms of technology. And fusion allows you to have much, much higher power density, much cleaner, easier to deal with waste, but also very reliable, and we're excited that that we might actually be very close to that. I also learned at the conference that the U.S. used to be, as far as fission, the U.S. used to be the world's leading enricher of nuclear material, and we've ceded that ground just like in many other areas to other countries. And so there's really a concerted effort in the fission community to bring that capability back to the United States and build out those kind of processing and supply chains.
Wow, amazing. It's great to hear that nuclear is coming back to America. I mean, I think it's definitely the future, and I am very glad to have you on the show to explain tech. I think the way that you do it is very clear, concise, and is easy to comprehend. So let's dive into these headlines and explain some other things. As we are here, of course, Bitcoin News Weekly, we dive into all the top headlines in Bitcoin that just happened this last week, get you ready for the week ahead. And we always start off with the adoption section. So right off the bat, we have Square has begun publicly beta testing Bitcoin payments as Jack Dorsey urges followers to connect merchants interested in testing the new capabilities by DMing Block's Bitcoin design lead, this guy right here. So what does it look like? I have a video to share with you guys. This is from the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas. Square was testing out Bitcoin payments on their point of sales systems. And so at the merch store in Vegas, you could just go up, scan the QR code, and type in how much you want to pay, slide it over, and just like that, within a matter of seconds, boom, the payment is made. You paid Bitcoin for your goods on a Square point of sales terminal. So this is coming to America, to a Square merchant near you. Almost every neighborhood has merchants who use Square. And so now they're looking for merchants who are willing to test it out in public. You can reach out to the Block Bitcoin design lead, this guy right here, and he will get you initiated. What do you think about this? Finally, Jack Dorsey and Square are enabling Bitcoin payments on their point of sales terminal, something we've asked for a very long time, and it's finally here.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, I live this because I live here and we have Steak and Shake down the street. I eat Steak and Shake at least once a week and I pay in Bitcoin. It works. It's completely seamless. There's really no reason not to do it. Some people say like, oh, you don't want to sell your Bitcoin or get rid of it because it's so valuable. Nonsense. You just have to go and like top up afterwards, right? So we need to bootstrap Bitcoin and becoming normalized as a medium of exchange. I would recommend that everybody pay in Bitcoin to the extent that they can, and that includes like choosing to eat at Steak and Shake over restaurants. Like we should be rewarding these businesses, and we should be paying in Bitcoin every single time we have the opportunity to do so. And if you're worried about losing your Bitcoin, just go home and buy some out on the other end. But this is really exciting. I think, one of the things that was talked about at the conference was, this was Art Laffer and Kathy Wood talking about the fact of Bitcoin being so volatile, and that is a blocker to its use case as a medium of exchange. I would respectfully disagree. I think that, volatility will decrease pretty naturally as people adopt it, as liquidity improves, and as the transaction volume and payment volume on Lightning improves. So this is a huge win for America, for Bitcoin, and for freedom. So I'm very, very excited that Square finally did this. I don't know what took so long exactly, but we're finally here. So super bullish on this.
Yeah, it probably took a lot of the regulatory environment and legal stuff to get cleared up. We're definitely in a new era now that Trump is president, of course, and a lot of the fear of accepting Bitcoin as payment from companies has sort of disappeared. But I completely agree with you. We as Bitcoiners, we need to embrace paying in Bitcoin. It just makes you so much more comfortable with Bitcoin in general. You're not afraid to use some, to get rid of some, in order to receive a good back. You learn how to send a payment, receive a payment, and these are all things that we need to know how to do, to use Bitcoin, to share it, to spread it. If you don't know how to buy something with it, can you really be that strong of a Bitcoin advocate? So if you have the opportunity, go out there and do it, because that transitions well into the other story here, because it's not just America where you can pay with Bitcoin. There's other countries around the world where it's actually the adoption to use it as a medium of exchange is accelerating a whole lot faster. As you can see here, Shell, the $200 billion oil and gas giant, is now accepting Bitcoin payments in South Africa as Zapper payment processor adds Lightning support. So, I mean, you can go to a gas station in South Africa and they'll fill up your tank. That's done. Then they'll whip out their mobile point of sale system right here, scan it, pay it, and boom, It's done. You just paid for your gas in Bitcoin. This is happening around the world. And it's really amazing to see it's companies like this, Money Badger, that are enabling this. Online or in store, you can now pay with Bitcoin, and the store receives South African Rand or Bitcoin, making it as simple as possible. A lot of course, companies, they have goods that they need to and bills that they need to pay in the native currency of the country that they're in. So they're afraid of taking Bitcoin if they don't have a strategic reserve. But this makes it super simple. You can accept Bitcoin as payment and then and get the Rand or local currency back. And it works with these wallets that we're all very familiar with. Blink, I love. Aqua is great. And an interesting tidbit here that I saw on the website was South Africa's Bitcoin user per capita are among the highest in the world. United States coming in at 8th at 15%, and South Africa 14th at 12.4%. So that means you're activating 6 million new potential customers by enabling Bitcoin payments. This is really cool stuff, and it's how we accelerate adoption across the world. Did you see this this little clip that went around this last week?
No, this is great. This is great. Honestly, it's just personally speaking, it's much more exciting than treasury companies. I'm so happy to see regular people going out and engaging in voluntary exchange and using Bitcoin as their medium. That is incredibly inspiring.
Yes, and it starts at home, right? We've got a comment here from William Clark. I'm orange pilling a professional dog sitter and grooming services to maybe accept Bitcoin. It starts with us. We got to go out and spread the good word, to spread the gospel of Bitcoin and show people how easy it is to download a wallet, accept Bitcoin, and get started stacking sats.
Absolutely. I went to dinner with some guys after the conference, and we tipped our waitress in Bitcoin, and she was very open to it. And she actually had a small investment, she said, but it had never occurred to her that you could actually just exchange it person to person. She thought of it more of like a stock holding or something. So by having this conversation, we had her download an app, and it really opened her mind. So anything we can do to give tips. Tips are great because they're on top of what you're paying for, so you don't need to talk to like the owner of the business, nothing like that. You talk individually to the person cutting your hair or serving you food, and orange pill them directly and get them to download something and tip them in Bitcoin.
May I ask which wallet you had them download?
At the time, I think she was using. I think we just sent it on Cash App because she already had it.
Oh yeah, super simple, right? I mean,
yeah.
Really easy way to get people exposed to Bitcoin. It's like, hey, you got Cash App? And a lot of people got Cash App.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. So jumping out of the feel-good grassroots Bitcoin adoption payments, we got this other adoption story that was super interesting, making the rounds. A golden statue of President Trump holding a Bitcoin has appeared on the National Mall in front of the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. So this happened last week. It popped up out of nowhere. People were very surprised to see this. It made very little sense. What's your first impression when you see this?
That it's a marketing activation.
You're right. You're right. This really has nothing to do with Bitcoin whatsoever. It is actually a Bitcoin affinity scam. It is these guys here, DJT, GST. They've got some meme coin, and of course, it's the classic "I like Bitcoin, buy my shit coin." So yeah, this thing is totally disgusting in terms of what they're really going after. But I mean, people just saw this statue, and I mean, I was getting texts from friends who aren't necessarily hardcore Bitcoiners being like, what is this? What's going on here? I had to explain to them, no, this is just an affinity scam. But yeah, I mean, the joke that I made was, I mean, of course, Trump hates all images of himself that are not extremely flattering. And it's so much so that he had a portrait taken down of him at the Colorado state capitol. And so my joke was, he's got to be circling some F-16s to shoot a couple missiles at this thing if he finds out about it. Right there in Washington. But yeah, I think their plan is to take this thing around the country, probably going to pop up in on Wall Street and some other places. So it's funny. It's kind of weird, but Bitcoin is everywhere, and this is I guess the price you pay of being a
Yeah.
part of it.
I mean, if you're attracting this type of activity, it's, that's a good sign ultimately, because it means that the mimetic power of Bitcoin is extremely valuable and powerful. So
You're right. And marketing, Bitcoin has no official marketing team. We are Bitcoin's marketing team, every single one of us. And so, hey, the more that people get exposed just to the word itself, the idea, the better off we are for global freedom and monetary sovereignty. So it comes in all shapes and forms. So I guess we'll take it. But yes, that wraps up the adoption section. And I would now like us to go into legal. So some very interesting stories happened this last week. First off the bat, we have the Bank of England proposes capping individual stablecoin holdings at 10 to 20,000 pounds, citing systemic risk. This is a sharp limit on financial freedom and signals a growing global unease over the proliferation of USD stablecoins. So this is a story out of the Financial Times, came out last week. But this is pretty crazy, right? For one, I mean, a central bank telling individuals how much of a certain money they can hold, right? And it raises a lot of questions. How would they enforce this? And what makes them so uneasy about people holding a stable coin, and citing it as a systemic risk? Because we all know that with the Genius Act and Bessent and Trump's plans, they want to spread American USD stablecoins around the globe and make sure that there's a demand for our debt as they proliferate the use of these stablecoins everywhere. So yeah, what do you think about the Bank of England trying to put a cap on individuals holding stablecoins?
well, I mean, it reminds me of Christine Lagarde. If there is a escape hatch, it will be used. You know, and of course, she was talking more about Bitcoin, but the fact of the U.S. dollar being a better currency than other currencies, any other currency, right, means that it is also a place to go to escape. And so, dollar's not great; it's terrible. Bitcoin's much better, but the dollar is still better than everything else. That's not the dollar, except Bitcoin. And so, um, this is obviously a very rational concern of the people who guard the integrity of the pound sterling.
Mhm.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, they got to protect it in order to keep their game afloat. Of course, the 30-year gilt, the bond over there in the UK is with yields that haven't been seen in 30 years, right? People are rejecting it. They're saying you got to pay us a whole lot more and not coupon in order for us to buy this debt. And they've got some problems over there. They're having a very hard time balancing the budget. They are taxing their people as if they are nothing but tax slaves, and it is they're in sort of dire economic straits. So when you see that happening, you definitely see the walls go up, and this is just evidence of that happening over there. Do you have any ties to the UK? Do you know anybody over there who's dealing with the issues at this moment?
No.
Yeah, but there are a few prominent Bitcoiners, of course. We've had Freddie New on this show, Jordan Walker, two great guys. Peter McCormick, of course, who's taking issues into his own hands and cleaning up his hometown of Bedford because the government is failing to do so. So it's interesting to see how it all plays out. Of course, we would see further Bitcoin adoption there if the pound hits rocky roads. But yeah, it's dire straits over there, it seems to be.
Oh yeah, dire.
And speaking another of the Crown Royal territories, Canadian police this week confirmed the takedown of Tragray Ogre, a KYC-free exchange, announcing a $56 million crypto seizure and an on-chain op return message. So this is the biggest seizure of cryptocurrency in Canada's history. They've got $15 million worth of
Can you
Bitcoin.
explain what this means? Like in an op return message? I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of a nuanced technical point, right?
Yes. So yes, Lola. So the government.
I think you're muted.
Hello?
Or I can't hear you anymore.
Hear me? No? Hello, hello? I think I'm coming through. I hear myself. Choo choo. So yes, let's see if we can find it here. Hello. Are we back? Are we live? Yes. Okay. We're still live. Awesome. Dave, you there? Hello, hello.
Hey, I don't know
Hello.
if my audio and video work again for you. Seems like I'm back. I don't know what happened there. But Rob, you look frozen to me, so we may have still having trouble.
Oof. Mm. Hello. All right. Oh, you just muted yourself. Unmute. There we go. Dave, can you hear me? Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you, unfortunately, but I just
No.
tested my speaker and it seems to be working.
Yeah.
So for some
Okay.
reason, the audio is not coming from your end.
Hello, hello. No. All right. You hear me now?
Hey, yes.
Okay. Let's go. Come on. Don't be afraid. Go roll with it. We're doing it live. As Bill Riley says, come on. No problems here. So yes, let's hop right back into it. So
Yeah.
yes, the Canadian police took down this exchange and they moved the Bitcoin. And when they moved it, they wrote a message in the op return saying that this is now the property of the Royal Canadian Police.
Oh, I see.
So yes, this is a very large exchange. I mean, in terms of Canadian history, and they took it down just because it was KYC free, right? Plenty of people want to preserve their privacy, and they don't want to go through the whole entire rigorous KYC process, and they are not criminals for doing so. Yet the Canadian government decided that they are. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that there's going to be increasing pressure on non-KYC exchanges?
In Canada, and absolutely. Canada is descending, unfortunately, into a state. They need to figure out who they are and what they're doing. They're having trouble figuring out their national identity at this point, and they've turned away from the values that they used to espouse. It used to be a stout, freedom-loving people in the North, and they are not that. And it's very sad to see. I really hope Canada makes it on the other side of all of this. This is just another reason to build the wall along the northern border until then.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about both England and Canada, right? I mean, there's no Bill of Rights, right? There's no freedom of speech. There's no First Amendment that guarantees your right to say what you want in these two countries, and they definitely need to stand up for what they believe in and to stop having these freedoms encroached upon. Because yeah, it does seem as if, I mean, of course, the debt situations of both these countries are pretty dire, and the situation's only going to get weirder. And one story that we have next that sort of ties both of these in is that Vietnam, in the month of September, freezes 86 million bank accounts after holders failed to comply with new biometric laws requiring face scans or fingerprints. So Vietnam just created a new digital ID, and you needed to go to the bank and give your biometrics in order to maintain access to your bank accounts. 86 million is a lot. There's, I think, 100 million people in total in Vietnam. So I looked into it a little bit, and it does seem as if people like to have multiple bank accounts for different online purposes and whatnot in Vietnam. So many of these 86 million, I'm sure, were tied to one person, or one person has many accounts, right? So yeah, but this was huge. And the other crazy thing is that the UK is now talking about instituting a digital ID. This comes after years of strife when it comes to immigration and the desire for immigration reform. The government really lets the borders open, a lot of people to come in, and now they say the solution is to have everybody get a digital ID to have access to jobs, to healthcare, to housing, to make sure that they have everybody in their purview, right? So we actually made a video of this weekend. I will play a bit of that, and then we can talk about it.
You just hear what happened in Vietnam? The government just deactivated 86 million bank accounts overnight. Why? Because the people did not submit their biometric data for a digital ID. If you didn't scan your face or give up your fingerprints, your money was immediately frozen and soon to be confiscated. Of course, they say it's about fraud prevention, but this is obviously about control. They want you tagged, scanned, and monitored, and if you don't comply, they cut you off from your money. And don't think that this is too extreme to happen over in the West, because it's already started. The United Kingdom is rolling out digital ID under the guise of immigration reform. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is about to announce that he wants every citizen to have one, for jobs, housing, and even healthcare. They say it's for convenience, but let's be honest, this is gonna be your key to participate in society. Because soon, without a digital ID, you simply won't exist in the system. There's currently a petition against it, but the last petition against the Online Safety Act drew hundreds of thousands of signatures and was completely ignored. But you see, there is a way to opt out. Not an ETF or a stock, I'm talking real Bitcoin. Download a wallet, secure your keys, and own your money. Bitcoin doesn't care if you're verified, it doesn't ask for your face, and you do not need permission to use it. And that's the point, because the choice ahead is simple. Scan your face to access your money, or opt in to a parallel system that they cannot touch. So let me know what you think.
Yes. So did you hear about any of this?
Yeah, I did. It's about what you would expect to happen. The thing is that with England as well, with Vietnam, Vietnam obviously has less of a tradition of liberty, and so it's a little bit more expected there. But still, it's a tragedy for the individuals that have to go through this. The thing is that you mentioned the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and so on. They don't have them, or they don't have these Bill of Rights. We all have natural rights. We have natural right to free speech. That it precedes any government. It precedes a piece of paper where it's written that you can have it. The government doesn't give us permission to have free speech. We constrained the government's ability to impede upon our natural right to free speech and our right to defense and so on. If you don't have a society that understands natural rights, that understands where these things come from, you're not, then you just go down this dark path of like, we're going to have higher and higher process. For example, in England, they say digital ID so that they can deal with immigration. You could just have borders if you wanted. you could just enforce your borders if you wanted. Then you don't need a digital ID. But of course, they don't do that. So that tells you something. It's really awful what's going on in these countries, and I really I feel for the individual people who live there who have to go through this.
Yeah, and thank you for that framing. We are born with natural rights, right? And one of them is the ability to say what you want when you want, and we shouldn't have to grovel to the government to try to beg for the right to do so. You were completely right about that, and it goes to show even I just framed it that way, whereas, but at the end of the day, no, these are things that we are born with, and you have the right to speak your mind and not let the government tell you that you can't. So yes, I hope for the best. It does seem as if there is a lot of movement against this digital ID in the UK. I've been seeing it a lot on X over the weekend. Of course, this petition, I believe it has votes needed or signatures to be brought up before Parliament. But let's see if that does any good. Interesting situation going on over in England. They definitely need our support. So go give your brother in the UK a pat on the back. All right. Now let's move on to the markets section. Last week, Steven Moran, a pro-Bitcoin Trump economic advisor, is confirmed to the Fed board and immediately proposes 6 rate cuts this year, targeting 2.75% by year end, far lower than any other Fed governor. So it does seem as if Trump is at war with the Federal Reserve, and he is trying to replace as many members of the Fed governor board as possible while he is in power. One Fed governor stepped down, so Stephen Moran has taken their place, and he is trying to get another Fed governor, Lisa Cook, fired. That has stalled in the courts, but he is still making moves towards it, of course. And we will see Jerome Powell's tenure come to an end next May 2026. And Trump is trying to do everything in his power to get him to leave before that. And the Trump wants to cut interest rates. And of course, that will bring down the cost of the government to borrow more debt. But we are already $37 trillion in debt. We are adding roughly $1 trillion to that debt every 100 days. Lowering the interest rate is not the panacea. It's not going to fix this problem. It might make it cheaper to finance this debt over a limited amount of time, but we are in dire straits here, and the markets are at all-time highs. Gold's at all-time highs. Stocks, Bitcoin's not too far off, and yet they still want to cut. They want more easy money to juice the system, it seems. What do you think is going on here, and do you think that cutting is in the best interest of the American people?
Well, Trump, he's talking about using all of his power. I mean, he could just fire Jerome Powell. So the fact that he's not doing that, now you could say, well, he can't, because if he did, then the markets would respond very negatively. And so he's playing that, which I agree with. But he does have the power, I believe, to, we have a unitary executive. And the people who would say that the Federal Reserve is like independent from the federal government, well, then what is it exactly, right? Like there has to be some kind of oversight here. And I think that oversight ultimately does rest with the President of the United States in the executive branch. I think that they probably do need to cut. I think that we need capital investment in some of these emerging technologies we talked about earlier, nuclear and AI being critical industries to win in the coming decade for the United States. I am not sure if we can really innovate or grow our way out of our debt, but I do think that we could expand the economy to the point that the percent of our debt to GDP ratio remains where it is today, or even reduces over time. I think the short and midterm, I do agree that we need to cut rates.
Yeah, they had to refinance, I believe, $9 trillion worth of debt this year, right? And when you're doing that at 5%, it is wildly different than when you're doing it at 2.75%. So it makes a lot of sense why they would have to, but just the long-term implications, there's no way out of this, right? We've really rarely seen any country sort of recover from debt to GDP levels this high. Japan has sort of been in this fairy tale land for the last 30 years or so with extreme levels of debt, but they're in a very unique situation. But I mean, they've sort of given up on the cutting. Doge is silenced. It's really just a matter of trying to put the pedal to the metal, accelerate, and hopefully have a productivity boom that will make this debt manageable. Will they be able to do so? No one knows, but that is a great reason to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And if you are going to get some Bitcoin, then I highly recommend that you do it to our friends over at Rhino. Rhino is one of the best exchanges out there. Very thankful to have them support the show. Rhino is the all-in-one Bitcoin super app built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Of course, you can buy or sell Bitcoin instantly, send sats anywhere on the Lightning Network, and withdraw straight to cold storage. And when you're on the app, you've got some sats on there, easy to turn them into gift cards and then go buy real things in the real world economy with your Bitcoin. Or you can link to Casa Multisig and have the highest level of security all right there, all in one sleek interface. And you know, Rhino is just warming up. Soon you'll be able to pay bills, borrow against your Bitcoin, and stack for retirement without leaving the app. So today, go ahead, download Rhino at rhinobitcoin.com or just tap the link below in the description. Use code Bitcoin News and Rhino will drop you $10 of Bitcoin straight into your wallet today. Secure your stack, get some Bitcoin, use Rhino, and become sovereign with your money. Nice. Yes, Dave, we're in a bit of a tough situation here in terms of the world and the economy. The debt is piling up, but people are realizing that Bitcoin could be a solution. And the name of this issue today of Bitcoin News Weekly is, of course, amid market chaos, Bitcoin Treasury companies steal the spotlight in NYC. So the conference that I went to this last week was the Bitcoin Treasury Unconference, organized by Ed Julien and Tim Kotzman. And it was quite the show. Had, of course, representatives from all the biggest names. We had MSTR, of course, Saylor. We had Summer Scientific. We had Strive. All the big players were there. And I was very interested to see what the vibe would be like, right? Because I think that's the biggest takeaway from conferences is the vibe. Sometimes the vibe is high, sometimes the vibe is low, and you can tell the state of the industry or the companies that are putting it on by just how it feels when you walk in the room. And I thought that things were going to be a little somber, right? These stocks were really taking a beating over the last couple of months. Names like NAKA are down 95% since the summer. But I mean, I was really pretty surprised. These guys, of course, truly believe in what they're doing here. And the talks were powerful. Saylor said some really some great lines up there on stage, and they made it clear that yes, we understand that the stocks might be down right now, but we are doing something brand new. People are going to be targeting us. We're going to have a bullseye on our back, but what we're doing is paving new ground here and creating a new paradigm, and that for the long haul, they're going to be just fine. So from your view, have you participated in any of these Bitcoin treasury stocks? And do you think that there's still hope for this play?
I do, and I have participated, and I do think there's still hope. I think what I would like to see the conversation turn towards is how the Bitcoin Treasury is going to be monetized over the long term. And what I mean by that is really what's the strategy that goes beyond, holding an asset on the balance sheet. So for example, you could say that the company is solvent because over the long term that Bitcoin will continue to grow in value, and that's fine. But that doesn't make a case for the use of a securitization of Bitcoin, right, over holding it yourself. I mean, in the short term, there's certain funds that can't buy physical Bitcoin and so on and so forth. I understand that. I'm not sure really how big that market is. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm assuming that it can't be that big, as compared to these pools of capital that do have access to ETFs. And so I guess I'm just ready for the conversation to move on from, we're accumulating Bitcoin on our balance sheet, and we're I think Saylor's speculative attack on the dollar, for example, you could call it a speculative attack on the dollar, to take a weak currency and use it to buy a strong currency, and that's well and good. Now, what the longer term strategy is for all of these companies? How many did you say? 147 or something?
175, yeah.
100. Okay, so then okay, so not all of them are going to have the same operations. They're not going to have the same access to these more advanced financial instruments. So what are they doing to ensure that they don't have to sell their Bitcoin, and how are they going to use it to build a business? I guess I'm just missing that part of the story, and I may be woefully ignorant here, but that's as sort of a layperson coming to this. I'm ready. I got a year ago I was on board. At this point, I'm waiting for something new.
Yeah, and I think that's the question that everybody has, right? Saylor is going out and creating new financial instruments, right? He's very open with the fact that he just sat down with AI and brainstormed and created these preferred stocks. He first started off with the convertible notes, the debt instruments. Those did okay, but they weren't garnering the interest that they needed to continue the Bitcoin strategy on the level they had done just with selling equity. So now they've moved over to these preferreds, and the good thing about these preferreds is that they give you a coupon, right? They give you 10% on your money, and that sure beats the 4.5% that you can get now on a 10-year. But is anybody else going to be able to mimic this? What we saw today was actually quite interesting. I'll bring this up. This was the first acquisition of a Bitcoin treasury company by another Bitcoin treasury company, right? We had Strive, who finally is now listed on the NASDAQ, and they made their first big purchase of over 5,000 Bitcoin. And they also announced an all-stock deal to take over Semler Scientific and acquire their 5,000 plus Bitcoin, bringing the total of Strive now to 10,900 BTC, putting them easily in the top 10 of Bitcoin treasury companies in terms of holdings. And they had said that this was their plan since this summer to acquire distressed assets. And Semler Scientific was trading below 1 MNAV. So they were trading below the value of their Bitcoin straight up. And so they went and purchased Semler in stock, valuing one share of Semler at $90 when it was trading below 30 on Friday before the deal. And yeah, so they paid a 210% premium in terms of the value that they gave Semler when they purchased them. But this is a move to create more Bitcoin on the balance sheet, right? Did you see this? What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, I saw it this morning. It's interesting. I don't really have much to say about it. It's an interesting way of acquiring a lot of Bitcoin very quickly, I suppose, that we're going to see more of in the future.
I think we are going to see a lot of it. I mean, there's plenty of these treasury companies that are now trading below the value of their Bitcoin. And so if they're willing to trade their company for stock in another, then we could see a flurry of this activity, especially if Bitcoin doesn't rocket within the next couple of weeks or so. So interesting stuff for sure. And another claim that I found quite interesting this week was Michael Saylor says that a short seller has deployed an army of bots to spread FUD about MSTR on social media. So I have that video here that we can watch real quick.
You know, even I notice in times of success, like just of late with our company's never been more successful, and yet the amount of hate and toxicity like that gets posted online has never been greater. And then I'll drill down on some of these, on the people posting, you know, all the negativity and the hate and the criticism. And here's what I see oftentimes. I see it's a person that's never interacted with anybody before, and they have 328 followers, and they share none with me. And I look a little bit, and I'm like, this is not even a person. Mm-hmm. This is a bot. And it turns out, I think, that a lot of the toxic inflammatory behavior online is actually cyber marketing or guerrilla marketing. Some, like a short seller in my stock has actually paid a digital marketing organization to spin up a bunch of bots to post a bunch of nasty, you know, awful, skeptical cynicism because they think it might work. And it's very transparent to me that someone paid some money to create the appearance of a protest.
Wow.
And I think if you take this in the political.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we are definitely in the age of AI and AI agents, and now you really have no idea whether you're interacting with another person when you are replying back and forth with an entity on the internet. Yeah, do you think we're going to see more of this? I know that you're on top of AI. Where do you think we are going in terms of deep fakes, flooding companies with bots, and where does this lead?
Oh yeah, it's really bad, and it goes way beyond MicroStrategy or strategy. Many of the protest movements over the last 20 years in the United States have been astroturfed. They're getting more effective with AI, but this is an old story. And we need to be very cognizant on an individual level. I don't know how to solve this problem at a broad scale, but on an individual level, there is some hygiene that needs to go into your use of online media. And when you see a post that you agree with, I would not recommend that you just like it just because you agree with the content. I would recommend that you like a post where you recognize the account that is making that post. If you haven't seen it before, tap on the profile, see who else follows it, see how many followers they have. You know, do a quick heuristic check to see if you can believe that this is a real account. Because it's kind of that's the only solution for now. It's incumbent on all of us to not engage with these bot farms. And absolutely, they do it for financial gain. They do it for political gain. You know, another thing is people talk about strategy as, you know, you have this multiple on NAV and so on. But, you know, it's also, it introduces risk. Like you have an attack surface now for that investment that is, you know, dependent on the reputation of one man. That's dependent on the financial audits of one company. That can be attacked by bot farms and short sold in the equity markets. And so I think there's something to be said for saying that, you know, maybe there should be a premium on Bitcoin over a securitized Bitcoin as opposed to the reverse. We see there's a premium on non-KYC Bitcoin, for example. It's about 5 to 10%. Like you're going to pay more for Bitcoin that is non-KYC, that has never been KYC, that has or that has been freshly minted from the Coinbase from miners. You know, I'm not sure that Bitcoin is worth more when it's held by a company. I think that doesn't really make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, so many great things you brought up there. Because yes, if you were just going out and liking content that you perceive as good, you're still training the algorithm and the AIs to what you like and what can influence you, right? So it is very important. I mean, we're hearing about phone calls now that mimic the voice of someone that you care about, saying that they're in distress and that you need to send Bitcoin in order to save them. But because it's so well copies the voice of someone that you care about, people get into a tizzy and are willing to send it over. So yeah, we need to really up our cognitive OPSEC, right? And to make sure that we are going into things with skepticism, because that's what it takes now. You really can't trust anything at first glance. You need to put in more work to understand the information and content that you are consuming. It's wild times out there, and thank God we got Bitcoin.
Absolutely. And cryptography. I think cryptography is going to play a much bigger role in day-to-day communication in short order here.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of how it could be used easily?
Oh, I just mean like how do you know who you're talking to? You know,
Yeah.
deep fakes and so on. Well, you're going to be verifying their key, right? Their public key.
Yeah. And I mean, a simple thing to do is to have a secret code word with your loved ones that is uttered nowhere near a computer or a cell phone or anything else, that only you guys know, and can be used in those types of situations when the stress is high, so that you don't get caught up in something you don't want to be a part of.
Great point.
We've got a question from the audience here for you, Dave. What do you think about the quantum threat to cryptography? Is it real?
I think it's definitely real. It's a question of timing. So there's not a lot of agreement on when it becomes a real threat. And the reason for that is that the development of quantum bit depth so far has been kind of coming in unpredictable short spurts. So it's not like Moore's law where you can make a nice clean curve of like how fast quantum's getting better. It kind of doesn't get better for a while and then suddenly has a step function and gets better. The NIST in the United States, which regulates the government's use of encryption, has published guidelines that all government encryption needs to be quantum resistant, I believe, by 2030. So there are cryptographic solutions to quantum computing, but we would just need to upgrade all of our communications to those. And they're still kind of being developed and implement. The theory is there, but the software that would like implement the theory is still being developed. So by 2030, government communications are going to be quantum resistant. That's probably a good year to target for Bitcoin upgrading its protocol to quantum resistant algorithms as well. So yeah, it's something that, there are actually Bitcoin improvement proposals already for, and there's ongoing discussion in the developer community about how to upgrade Bitcoin to be quantum resistant.
Yeah. But there's questions with that too, right? What about because these coins need to move to, the old wallets need to move to new wallets, right? That's the way to protect Bitcoin from quantum.
Well, yes, or you could say that you update the protocol so that all new transactions need to be made to a quantum resistant address, and then that would at least we should be doing that a few years before we think that quantum will really threaten Bitcoin. Time is short. I agree with you. I mean, it's actually quite short because these things take years. New Bitcoin improvement proposals can kind of flounder for years. And it's going to be tight, but we will do it. And frankly, Bitcoin is not the biggest, intelligence communications among countries, bank account software, all that stuff is just as equally threatened. And so it's not just a Bitcoin problem.
Yeah, it's a world problem. Yeah, but thank God we got some very smart people thinking about it and how to mitigate the risks. Well, Dave, here we are at the end of our 1 hour. I want to thank you so much for joining us. If people want to find out more about you, Coinbits, your writings, where should they go?
Absolutely. Well, coinbits.app is where I would send everybody. Please go to coinbits.app and check out Coinbits. It's a website. So it's called .app because it's a web app. Okay. But you're not going to find it in the Google Play or Apple Store. We're actually releasing a native app in the coming weeks. So you will be able to find it there soon. But today, go to coinbits.app and sign up through a website. It works on mobile too. You can find more about me at davebirnbaum.com. I write for Forbes. You can find my author page there, Bitcoin Magazine, and so on. So yeah, it should all be online there. If you just go to my portfolio site, if you'd like to connect with me on Twitter, I would love for everybody to connect with me there. That my username is ContraryMo, so contrary and then MO. And yeah, I hope to keep in touch with all of you. And thank you, Rob, for having me. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, no, you're great. You're a wealth of knowledge. It was very fun. The hour went very quickly, and would love to have you on again in the future.
Sounds fantastic.
All right, Dave. Cheers. Thank you so much. And everybody, this has been Rob with Bitcoin News. Go download Rhino. Go subscribe to Bitcoin News Weekly. Join the family. Join the conversation. Be a part of it. We'd love to have you here. Thank you so much. Until next time. Bye-bye.